I know I'm not the only one that has a place in the studio where all the projects they never quite finished go to hang out, right? And sometimes we dig them out and decide they're no good, and other times we get excited all over again. And that's kind of what happened to me when I found my big box of green stuff. And I can remember piecing this together probably a couple of years ago when I was doing a whole lot of Just Because books and I was making clusters. And I pieced that together with the idea I was going to make this one giant cluster and kind of just see if I could just fill it with stuff that I liked. Well, then the idea just didn't appeal to me, and I have no idea what I was thinking with that shape. I guess maybe a wall hanging. But now I'm thinking maybe I should cut this up and I need to come up with another kind of background, probably multiple backgrounds, because once I started going through the box and realized how many things I had in there, it's like where I put all the really cool green things that I dyed or painted. I mean, there is just some fabulous earthy colors. They're all earthy greens and browns. There's fabric, there's lace, there's fibers. I'm not even sure where to start except to kind of figure out what size I would be working on. Do I want to make like one gigantic piece? I don't think so. Do I want to make a whole bunch of small pieces? Do I want to make a great big piece that could hang behind me on my screen when I do videos? Do I want to make a long skinny piece to go over the patio door in the studio? I'm not quite sure yet, but I do feel the urge. I mean, look at all the juicy goodness in here. There is so much. There are long, skinny things that look like sari ribbon, but they're not. I ripped them from fabric. There's bits of burlap. There's cheesecloth. There is all the shades of browns and rusts and greens. So I could cut that apart and use part of it, or I could just toss that and say that was my inspiration. And maybe I just need to grab some of the other fabrics that are in there and piece them together. That's some organza that has been, I don't know, painted or dyed with something. I don't remember how I got the color in it. I mean, look at that box is so full. And a lot of these were the things were the leftovers at the end of the day. You know, I would just shove some paint in, or I would shove some fabric in my paint water or dump it into a tub and fill it with paint. The little dots that are on there are from the cookie sheet I had them on. This is part of a tablecloth that when I dyed it with kind of that rusty colored stuff, it almost looks like wire. And how fun will that be to play with without having the wire poke me in the hand? I mean, there's so much fabric. I could really piece together something neat. This is kind of giving me some motivation to clean off the island in the studio so I can really lay this out and see what all goes together. So I often like the backs of the commercial fabrics better than the fronts. I know some people feel differently about that. There is a lot of good stuff in here. That is actually an old shower curtain, just a cheap, you know, one of those sheer shower curtains, and it sopped up the paint really nicely. So it's going to be fun to do something with that. My art has evolved so much since I painted these fabrics that I really don't know what I will do, but I've been having kind of like a tickle in the back of my mind that I wanted to go back to doing something with fabrics. And it'd be nice to have an alternate project to work on when the French knots, to be honest, they can be hard on my hands even with my stand. So it might be nice to have something else to play with. I'm just continually amazed as I'm pulling things out of there. Look at that big piece of fabric. So I could use that as a backing. I could maybe fold that up into fourths and cut it and make 4 long skinny pieces. I don't know, or maybe I don't want to cover any of that up. Maybe I want to use that on top of something else that's kind of plain. I have a whole bunch of solid color wool that I could actually use as a backing for some of this stuff. I don't know, or maybe it all goes in a book. Maybe some of it goes in a book and some of it goes in a wall hanging, but I kind of like to do something that wasn't quite as time intense as a book. So what do you think? There's so much to play with. What would you do with it? Where would you start? I think for a lot of us, figuring out where to start is the hardest part. And for me, it means having space to lay all this out and then just make a pile of the stuff that really excites me. I mean, what is it that I get super excited about? What am I drawn to? And then from there, I know I have a starting point and I don't have to worry about where I'm going to finish. I can just start to play. I don't have to stitch anything down. I don't have to glue anything down. I can just kind of move things around and see what calls me to play with it next. Let me know what you might do with all these goodies sitting in front of you.